All right. Hey, so good to be back with you this Sunday. It was such a treat and just a joy to be here last Sunday. And I'll tell you, greatest joy is just seeing what God's doing among you. And thank you, Pastor Dave, for your leadership and the gift that you are and answering the call of God to come here. And it's just exciting to see all that God's doing and all that's in the future for you. So thrilled to be with you again today. All right. So how many of you have ever been a secret Santa? Anybody? All right. How many of you have ever done that where you've received a secret Santa thing? All right. Most of you have. Our kids do it. 4 children, their spouses, they all exchange secret Santas, and it's always fun to watch them. We're kind of in the back scenes watching it all happen, and they surprise each other. They discover what their other siblings or in-laws like, and they get that gift for them. And you say, well, Jim, aren't you and Beth kind of feeling left out? No, we're not. We're not. We've been there, done that, so it's all good. It's all good. But, and that's a fun secret to have, right? A secret Santa. And it's fun if you have a birthday and there's a secret surprise party or something. But there's also secrets that aren't so fun. There are secrets that people can have that if they were to share those secrets, they would be embarrassed, they would be ashamed, and they would be afraid. There's secrets that we might have about, as a student, maybe you cheated on a test and you got a grade you didn't deserve, and you don't want anybody to know that. Maybe you lied to the IRS. Maybe you're pretending that you quit smoking, but secretly you still do it. And there's family secrets. There's secrets that sometimes we keep that maybe a parent who's an alcoholic, or maybe we've been abused, or maybe there's been an affair, and we just don't want that out. And so we've stuffed it downside, and we have this secret that we're ashamed of. Those secrets have a toll on our lives. I was researching that this week, and I came across an article on 5 reasons why keeping family secrets are harmful. And it says that traumatic, painful, or life-changing secrets potentially can damage an entire family's mental health and well-being for some time. And the 5 reasons they give are: 1, keeping secrets can destroy relationships. It says that keeping secrets within a marriage or any significant adult relationship can cause a breakdown in communication, and the bond between the adults may be irreparably harmed, causing harm to any children as well. Number 2, keeping secrets can affect children's lives. Children are extremely perceptive and may become alarmed or anxious if they sense something of a serious nature is being hidden from them. And the most damaging scenario would be if one or more children in the family believe that they are somehow personally responsible for whatever undercurrent is going on in the family. Number 3, keeping secrets can cause suspicion and resentment. We would all like to believe that those closest to us can be trusted, that those we love and respect say what they mean and that what they say is truthful. But when trust is severely compromised, family members learn that a secret, especially one that is compounded by a lie, has been hidden from them. Trust is broken. Number 4, keeping secrets can create a false sense of reality. Number 5, keeping secrets can cause illness. Keeping traumatic secrets can result in excessive stress and guilt for the person carrying the burden of the knowledge, even when that silence is thought to be possibly the best option. Physical symptoms such as anxiety, headaches, backaches, and digestive problems often can occur when disturbing secrets are internalized rather than shared, especially over a long period of time. It's important to remember that both the person keeping the secret as well as those who live with the secret keeper, including young children, can experience similar physical and mental health issues. So keeping secrets, not a healthy thing to do. So, if you've got a secret here today, many of us do, how do we get healthy? How do we recover? How do we move through that? Well, this morning, we're going to talk about that. And we're going to talk about it surprisingly, in the Christmas story. Because in the Christmas story itself, there's a person who deals with a deep, dark secret. Now, last week, we opened up Matthew's beginning account of the narrative of Jesus' birth. And surprisingly, he starts with the genealogy of Jesus. And in that genealogy, last week we discovered that there was some strange people in that genealogy. In fact, there was people in there that surprised us, shocked us that were actually in that genealogy. I mean, there were liars, there were adulterers, there were murderers, there were women. And some of those women were of ill repute. And we're going, why in the world did God include them in his lineage? Why did Matthew have the guts to put that in the genealogy and expose all this? What was he thinking? And God inspired Matthew to include that in the genealogy because the message is this: those are the people that Jesus came for. That's why Christmas happened. God himself, the Son of God, came to this planet to rescue those who are sick. Remember last week we looked at the life of Matthew and how Jesus came not for the righteous, but for the unrighteous. And the reality is we're all sick. We need a doctor. So this morning we're going to continue to look at that genealogy and look at a particular person in that genealogy that had a secret that we're going to discover. So if you have your Bibles, go ahead and turn with me to Matthew chapter 1. If you don't, we'll have it on the screen here. But Matthew chapter 1, first page in the New Testament, verse 1. And this is what we read. This is the genealogy of Jesus the Messiah. And so right off the bat, Matthew, who's writing to a Jewish audience, wants them to know that I'm talking about the Messiah, the one that we have been looking forward to for hundreds of years, the ones the prophets had predicted. He's here, and his name is Yeshua, Jesus. He says the genealogy of Jesus the Messiah, the son of David, and every Jew knew that the Messiah had to come through the line of David, and the son of Abraham. And he had to be a Jew. He had to come from Abraham. So right off the bat, he says that Jesus fulfills the bill, and now he's going to go prove it. Verse 2, Abraham was the father of Isaac, Isaac the father of Jacob, and Jacob the father of Judah and his brothers. So he goes through the patriarchs, right? Abraham, Isaac, Jacob. But when he gets to Jacob, the Jewish reader takes a deep breath and says, what? Because he says, Jacob, the father of Judah and his brothers. Now, if you recall, Jacob in the Old Testament had 12 sons, right? They become the 12 sons, the 12 tribes of Israel. Now, of those 12 sons, Jacob had one very famous son. In fact, 20% of the book of Genesis is devoted to this son. His name is Joseph, right? And you guys know about Joseph. Not the one that's coming next Sunday, which is going to be awesome as Pastor David somehow magically reincarnates himself as Joseph with that incredible beard he's growing, which most people think is incredibly dashing, David. But you know about Joseph, right? And we know Joseph, and his story is so famous that there's songs written about it. There's movies, right? The Prince of Egypt about it. There's Andrew Lloyd Webber made his first hit musical, Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat, right? So we all know about Joseph. But that's not who's in the lineage. Who in the world is Judah? I mean, if you were to turn to the person next to you right now and tell everything you know about Judah, it wouldn't go very long, right? You go, Judah, yeah, wasn't that was one of the tribes, right? And then you're stuck. That's it. But he's in there. And every Jew read that name Judah, and they go, oh no, not Judah, because Judah was an incredible embarrassment to the nation of Israel. Judah has a deep dark secret that he didn't want others to know, but eventually gets exposed. And this morning, we're going to look at that secret. We're going to look at the life of Judah. It's going to be startling. It's a little R-rated today. But that's the Bible. And by the way, that's one of the things that why you can trust the authenticity and reliability of the scriptures, because most ancient literature, history is written, is all about a certain historical figure, and the winners write history, right? And they always write it in a way that highlights all the qualities of a person. But in the Bible, all the heroes are full of warts and weakness and sin, and you're going, wow, are you kidding me? And you know why they wrote that? You know why Matthew includes Judah in the genealogy? Because that's the way it happened. Because that's the truth. The Bible isn't whitewashed, isn't some varnished look at history. The Bible is true in all the ugliness of our sin and failure so that we can understand how great God is. And that's one of the reasons you can trust the reliability of Scripture. But this morning, we're going to look at the life of Judah and discover that. So, as we start, let me pray. Heavenly Father, thank you for your presence here with us today. Thank you that every breath we breathe is because of you. And every word we say should be to your praise because we owe it all to you. Lord, this morning, there's some of us here with secrets, and they're making us sick, even though we try to suppress them. Lord, I know you have deliverance in mind today, that you have recovery and freedom in mind today. Lord, teach us through your word today. Teach us through Judah. Teach us through your Spirit how to find freedom and health from the sickness of secrets. For we ask it in your Son's name, Jesus Christ. Amen. Amen. Well, let me tell you a little about Judah. Judah is the fourth-born of Jacob. Firstborn Reuben, Simeon, Levi, and then Judah. He's the fourth-born, and you've got to know Judah's family environment, his family system, to understand Judah. Eventually, Jacob, his dad, has 12 sons. Joseph, the famous one, is number 11 in the line. But when Joseph is born, he's born to Rachel, Jacob's true love, his deep love. And so Joseph becomes Jacob's favorite child, his favorite son. And he adored him. And every time Joseph would come in the room, Jacob's face would just light up. It's like, and he would bless Joseph in ways he didn't bless the other kids. And in fact, he gave Joseph that Technicolor dream coat, right? That multicolored tunic for Joseph to wear. And that was a sign that he was his favorite. That was a sign that he was going to get the inheritance. And it was an expensive coat. And his brothers didn't get one. It's like this. If you had brothers and sisters growing up and your parents had a favorite child, and when you get to age 16 and you get your driver's license, they say, yeah, you want a car? Earn it, right? Make money, you can get a car. But then that younger sibling comes along, dad's favorite, and they say, oh, you want a car? How about a Corvette, right? That's kind of like Joseph, okay? So it makes for a real good family dynamic. And in fact, if we read that the brothers hated Joseph. They despised him. And then Joseph makes things even worse as he gets older and he has some dreams where his sons, where his brothers are all bowing down to him. And Joseph makes the mistake of telling his brothers about these dreams, and his brothers just go nuts with jealousy and anger toward Joseph. And it says they couldn't even talk to him. Anytime that they had anything to say to him, it would be a snide report, it'd be a cutting remark, it'd be something mean. They disliked Joseph with every ounce of their being. Well, as Joseph gets older, he's 17 years old, Jacob sends his older brothers on a ship taking all their flocks up north where the pastures are greener, and they go 2 days journey north of where they're living. After a while, Jacob wants to find out how the sheep and the flock are doing, how the siblings are doing. So he takes Joseph. He says, Joseph, I want you to go up, find out how everything is doing, and then come back and report to me. So Joseph goes up to the valley where they're supposed to be, but they're not there. And he asked somebody, have you seen these guys with a big herd of flocks? And they said, yeah, they moved another day's journey north. So they're out in the middle of nowhere. Joseph comes up, finds them out in the middle of nowhere. And as he comes across the horizon, some of the brothers see him coming. They're going, somebody's coming. Who is it? And he walks just like Joseph. And as he gets closer, they say, it is Joseph. Look at that coat he's wearing. That's that terrible coat. And they say, okay, we're out in the middle of nowhere. This is our chance. When he gets here, we're going to kill that dude. And they use different words. We're going to kill that guy, and then we'll bury him, and Dad will know none the worst. I mean, he'll never know what happened to him, and we'll be rid of this dreamer. So we're going to pick up the action right there in Genesis chapter 37. In Genesis 37, verse 23, this is what we read. So it came about when Joseph reached his brothers that they stripped Joseph of his tunic, the very colored tunic that was on him. So Joseph comes there, he says, hey, bros! They come, oh yeah, buddy, and they come up there and they hit him, they knock him down, they tear off his coat, he's struggling with them, they rip his coat off of him, and then they drag him. And it says in verse 24, and they took him and they threw him into the pit. Now the pit was empty without any water in it. It's a well, it's a dry cistern, and they drop him down there. He can't get out, it's deep down there, it's dark, he's bruised, he's hurt, and then they walk away. And at verse 25 it says this, then they sat down to eat a meal. Yeah, doesn't that strike you as kind of odd? I mean, they're about to murder their brother, and all of a sudden, oh, here's Chick-fil-A, guys. Let's eat first, you know. You don't want to kill somebody on an empty stomach. So this just shows you how cold-hearted they were, how deep their hatred for Joseph was, all because of jealousy. And can I say to you that jealousy is mean. Jealousy and envy will destroy you, and it destroys relationships. You know, we live in a world today where envy and jealousy are so prevalent. And you know what accentuates it today? It's that thing in your purse or your pocket, that little phone you have, and it's called social media. And you look on social media, and everybody's having such a good time, and look at where they're traveling, and I can't go there, and what's up, and why are they? And you subtly, if you're not careful, can start comparing yourselves to them, and you get angry at them. And by the way, those are just snapshots. It's not reality what you see on Facebook. You know that, right? I was like, you know, husband and wife, what are you doing? What do you want? You're traveling, right? Upset, he says, okay, time for a selfie, smile, right? And then they go back to arguing, right? So that's reality. But we don't see that. We just think that everything's beautiful and my life isn't. And so, you know what Teddy Roosevelt, our former president, said? He said, comparison is the thief of joy. And it's true, isn't it? Comparisons you always lose when you start to compare. And envy will destroy relationships. And at Christmas time, you can begin to compare what I'm getting, what other people are getting. The Bible says, don't. Don't do that. Why? Because you are uniquely made by God in your circumstances, not to be compared to somebody. God's got a special plan for you. In fact, 1 Timothy chapter 6 tells us this. Contentment is found in being thankful for what you have. Not what you don't have, not what somebody else has, but being thankful for what God has given you. You want to be happy this Christmas? It's not by getting the perfect gift. It's by being grateful with what you already have. God has blessed you immensely, and if you focus on those blessings, it changes everything. But if you're looking at my neighbor and my right and my left and what they're getting and what I'm not getting, you move into the dumpster fire of comparison and complaining and griping. But when we take our eyes off that and our good Lord and all that He's given us, it changes our lives. Joseph's brothers had their eyes on their brother rather than all the blessings they were receiving. And it results in the attempted murder of Joseph. We go on with this. Then they sat down for a meal, and as they raised their eyes and looked, behold, a caravan of Ishmaelites was coming from Gilead with their camels bearing aromatic gum and balm and myrrh on their way to bring them down to Egypt. And Judah, here's the first time we see Judah, and Judah said to his brothers, what profit is it for us to kill our brother and cover up his blood? So here's Judah saying, yeah, we want to kill Joseph. Yeah, he's a dog. He needs to die. But listen, why kill him when we can make money off of him? Why kill him when we can get him out of our lives forever and sell him as a slave? So he goes on and says, verse 27, come and let us sell him to the Ishmaelites and not lay our hands on him, for he is our brother, our own flesh. Oh, you pick up the irony there. Hey, we're going to give him a break. He's our brother. Rather than murder him, we'll sell him into slavery for life. What a bro. I mean, this is incredible brotherly love. This is Judah in the line of Jesus, okay? And his brothers listened to him. Judah was an influencer. He was an influencer, and we're going to find out later. He's kind of becomes the spokesman for his brothers. They listened to him. And then, verse 28, then some Midianite traders passed by, so they pulled him up and lifted Joseph out of the pit and sold him to the Ishmaelites for 20 shekels of silver. For those of you who know the New Testament and the narrative of Jesus, does selling somebody for 20 shekels of silver ring a bell? Judas betrayed Jesus for 30 shekels of silver, right? Judah is acting like Judas. He's betraying his brother. Judas betrayed his Savior. Judah is in the line of the Messiah. What? Crazy stuff. And then it says, thus they brought Joseph into Egypt. Well, Joseph is out of their life. He's on a caravan to Egypt as a slave. They are never going to see him again. He may last a month. He may last a couple of years building pyramids out in the desert. He's eventually going to eat it. They know that. They're free of him. So to cover up their tracks, they take the coat, they kill a goat, put the blood all over his coat, rip the coat a little bit more, go back to their home, back to their father Jacob, walk up innocently with the blood-stained coat of Joseph and hand it to their dad and say, Dad, do you recognize this coat? We found it while we were out on our trip. And Jacob sees the coat, falls down on his face. It's Joseph's coat. Did you find Joseph? No, we didn't see any trace of Joseph, just this blood-covered coat. Oh, Joseph must have died. He must have gotten ripped to shreds by an animal, by a lion. Yeah, Dad, that's probably what happened. We didn't see any trace of the body. He probably got dragged off someplace. Oh, I'm so sorry, Dad. No! And Joseph goes into a deep state of grief. And he's throwing dirt on his head, and he's wearing black, and he's mourning, for the light of his life is gone. Joseph, his favorite son, has been killed, and he can't recover. He's in deep, deep grief and mourning. And Judah thinks to himself, yeah, you deserve that, Dad. But he's also thinking, he's seeing his dad in deep anguish, and he knows, I caused that. I caused that. And he begins to feel the guilt of his crime, of his action. And every time they get together for a family meal, and the place where Joseph usually sat is empty, and he goes, oh my goodness, that's because of me. And Judah and his brothers keep this deep, dark secret to themselves. Well, a little while after that, Judah moves, and he moves north. He's got to get away from his past. He's got to get away from this guilt. And so he travels north to start a new home. He finds a wife. He gets married. They have 3 sons. And when the first son gets old enough to have a wife, it says Judah found him a wife named Tamar. And Tamar becomes his wife. By the way, Tamar is also in the line of the Messiah. Marries Judah's oldest son. But because he does wickedness in the sight of God, he dies early at a young age. And Tamar is left as a widow. But the law of the land says that if a husband dies, then the brother of that husband is required to take that wife, that widow, as his wife, to take care of her, because it was a patriarchal society, and a woman couldn't survive without a man. And so, much like today, no. Just kidding. But you couldn't survive back then, and so she needed protection. And so the law of the land required the next brother to marry that widow. And so he does. The second son marries the widow. He also does wickedness in the sight of God, and he dies. Well, Judah has a third son, but he's young. And it says, he tells Tamar, hey, when he gets older, then I will have him marry you and protect you. But in the meantime, why don't you go back and live at your dad's house? But the text also tells us that Judah thought to himself, I'm never giving Tamar to my third son because she's bad luck. Has nothing to do with the fact that my sons were bad dudes and deserve to die. And so his son gets older. Tamar lives with her dad, but her dad gets older, may be dying. She's very vulnerable. And she knows that Judah's son is now old enough to take her in, and he doesn't. Judah ignores her. All of her texts go unanswered, her phone calls, he ghosts her, and she's left on her own. Word comes to Tamar that her father-in-law is going to be going on a business trip, a couple of days business trip away. She knows the destination of his business trip. She also knows a little village on the way there. And so she takes off her clothes of mourning, because back then, when your husband died, a woman stayed in black mourning clothes until she remarried. So she's been in mourning clothes for years now. Judah's going on this business trip. She takes off her mourning clothes and puts on different type of clothes, kind of sexy clothes. But she's wearing a veil, and she goes and positions herself outside of this little village. Judah comes along. He sees her as a woman of the night. And so Judah, being the outstanding character that he is, right, you got it, goes over and propositions her. And she says, well, how much are you going to pay me? And he doesn't recognize her because he's got a veil and she's totally out of context. He hasn't seen her for years. And he goes, well, I'll give you a goat. She goes, okay. And he goes, but I don't have it with me. Oh, well, what can you leave as surety? What can you leave as a guarantee that you'll pay me? And he says, well, what do you want? He says, well, I want that signet ring around your neck and the cord on it, and I want your unique staff that you carry. And he says, okay, you got it. And so they go into the darkness of the tent. The business transaction is completed. So this is PG rated here. And they come out. Judah leaves on his business trip, and Tamar gets up, leaves the tent, goes straight back to her home, changes her clothes back into the mourning clothes, and goes about her business. Judah goes up, completes his business deal, comes back home, and then with his servant takes a goat and he says, hey, you know the prostitute? Go back and find her, give her this goat, and get my stuff back. Says, sure, boss. Goes up to the town, but he can't find her. Can't find the prostitute. So he goes to the men of the village and says, hey, where's the temple prostitute that's around here? Go, what prostitute? We don't have a prostitute. He goes, no, the one that was, no, we never, no. And so he comes back to Judah and says, I couldn't find her. And Judah goes, oh, well, we're not going to let that out, though, because that would be pretty embarrassing. So we'll just let bygones be bygones and call it even. And so they go on. 3 months later, word comes to Judah that his daughter-in-law Tamar has played the harlot and that she's pregnant. What should we do, Judah, father-in-law? He goes, take her out and burn her. So they go, and they go back to Tamar's house and grab her, and she goes, oh, by the way, before you kill me, take these things back to Judah and tell him this, that the father of my child is the owner of these things. Yeah. So they take it back to Judah. Judah sees these things, and he goes, oh. He goes, Tamar is more righteous than I am. I should have given my son to her, and I withheld it, and now this. And he says, don't kill her. I'm actually the father. Judah. Now, would you want him in your genealogy? Would that be something you'd be proud of? No. So, after this occurrence happens, there's a famine, a drought comes over the Middle East. And Jacob and his family and his sons are starving to death. They can't grow anything. It's been a couple of years. And so Jacob gathers his 11 sons, and says, I need you to go to Egypt, because somehow Egypt was prepared for this famine. And the word on the street is they've got an abundance of grain. So I need you to go down to Egypt and buy some grain so that we don't perish. So 10 of the sons go down there. Benjamin, the youngest, stays at home with his father Jacob. They go down to Egypt, and guess who's in Egypt? And that's where you know the story of Joseph, the prince of Egypt. And through God's intervention, amazing circumstances occur because of the just stalwart, wonderful character of Joseph. God blesses him, moves him through the ranks, and through amazing circumstances, he becomes Pharaoh's second in command. He basically is the prime minister of Egypt. And it's because of Joseph and because of the dreams that God had given him that Egypt was prepared for this famine. So as these representatives of another tribe come to Egypt, they need to talk to Joseph. And so they come to Joseph without any recognition of him. You would never recognize him. I mean, he's out of context, right? He's not wearing a varied colored tunic. He doesn't have his dream coat on. He's dressed like an Egyptian. His hair is different. His clothes different. His accent is different. Heck, he doesn't even speak Hebrew, or so they think. And so he has a translator. Here's what's up with them. And he grants them some of their wishes, but he understands they have a younger brother. He sends them back to Jacob to get the younger brother because he's got to see Benjamin, his full brother. When they come back with Benjamin, Joseph is so moved with emotion that he has to excuse himself and goes into a room and just cries, it says, for hours by himself. Once he composes himself, comes back out, and he says, okay, we need to have a dinner. And so he plans a great celebration, and they have this big dinner, and the 11 brothers are all there, and Joseph has them seated in the chronological order of their ages. And the brothers go, how did he know? We never mentioned who was the oldest. And they say, well, everybody, Reuben, you obviously look the oldest. No, they didn't do that. But they had them all set in the order of their ages. And they go, that is weird. And Benjamin got extra portions of food. In the meantime, Joseph, because he's Egyptian, and Egyptians can't eat with the Hebrews. It's a whole deal. And so he's separated from them, eating with the other Egyptians. But as he's looking over at his brothers, he begins to be overcome with emotion again. And he sends the rest of the Egyptians out of the room. So it's just he and his brothers now. And he stands up to speak to them. And before he says anything, he breaks down in tears again. You ever try to speak and all of a sudden you just start crying? And after some minutes, he finally regains his composure. And he speaks to them, not in Egyptian, but in Hebrew. And he says to them, I am your brother Joseph. And Judah goes, oh no! And when he says he's Joseph, they begin to recognize his characteristics. And as he talks a little more, they go, it is him. And he speaks our language. Oh my word, this is the most horrible news in the world. Because Joseph is going to do to us what we did to him. An eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. We're going to lose it all. But Joseph comes over and he says, do not worry, brothers. And he puts his arm around them. Do not worry. For what you intended for evil, God used for good. And he said, God sent me down here for this very purpose, so that I could save our family. And he hugs them and showers them with gifts, sends them back to get his dad, and says, and I want you to move here. And I've got some prime real estate for you called Goshen. And you're going to live there, and we're going to be together. And it's going to be a land of plenty. And it's all going to be okay. And after some days, weeks, months probably, Judah begins to really believe that Joseph has forgiven them and saved them. And they move to Goshen, and it's amazing. Now, what are we learning here? Why did God put Judah in his genealogy? Yes, he wanted us to understand that God came to this earth at Christmas to save sinners like Judah and like me. But Matthew and the Holy Spirit want you to understand something deeper. He wants you to understand what your God is like. What this God of both the Old and New Testament is like. And when Judah came and Joseph exposed who he was and came toward him, Joseph was expecting rejection, condemnation, and death. But instead, Joseph, who is a precursor of Jesus, Joseph, who is a type of Christ, he wasn't Christ, but he was a type of Christ, gave us a preview of what Christ is like. Instead of rejection, Joseph gave him acceptance. And rather than condemnation, Joseph gave him joy. And instead of death, Joseph gave him life. That is what our God is like and what God has always been like. Remember last week we talked about how do you approach this God? Do you approach him by what I do, my performance? Or do I approach him by what he did for me and rest and trust in that? God has always been a God of truth and mercy. Jesus came in grace and truth. The truth is we're lost. The truth is we're like Judah. The truth is we deserve death. But the grace of God receives us as loved ones. The grace of God doesn't compromise the truth. The truth is we're lost, hurting rebels. Jesus died on the cross to forgive us our sins. Somebody had to pay for my injustice. Somebody had to pay for my sin. Somebody has to pay for all the ugly stuff I've done in life. And that person who paid is Jesus on the cross. And he died on the cross for my sins so that he could receive me and accept me without overlooking my sin, but by forgiving my sins and to save me. And that's the experience that Judah has. And that's the experience that God wants for all of us to have. Now, here's the question. This morning, what's your secret? What's your secret that if it was revealed here before all of us today, you'd want to crawl under the chair? What is it in your life, that secret that haunts you, that you've tried to suppress and repress, but it's there? What is it? And here's what you do. You don't try to suppress it. You don't try to say, I'll never do that again. You don't say, it was my brother's fault. You don't say, it wasn't that bad. You don't try to deny that it ever happened. No, that's a works orientation. Instead, we come trusting who God is. Listen, that secret sin in your life, that secret that you have, it's like a boil. And the only way a boil is healed is it has to be lanced, and all the pus and infection has to get drained out. Has to come into the light. Secrets lose their power when they come into the light. So, what I'm telling you today is to find the freedom that Judah did when the secret becomes revealed and Joseph forgives. When the secret becomes revealed, Jesus forgives. So, here's what you do. With that secret buried inside of you, what I want you to do, sometime today or in the very near future, you need to get alone with God, maybe with a journal, and you need to tell him exactly what you're scared about. Exactly that secret that you've been holding inside of you that nobody else knows. Maybe even your spouse doesn't know it. What is that that's inside? And bring it out before the Lord. And as you do that, see Jesus coming to you with the same eyes of Joseph coming to his brothers. Not eyes of condemnation, but eyes of grace. Not eyes of rejection, but eyes of acceptance and forgiveness. Listen, when Jesus died on the cross 2,000 years ago, he died for all of your sins, past, present, and future. It starts with finding the forgiveness of God for those sins. Then, once you've done that, what's next? The answer is, I'm not sure. What's next is this. I know this, that once you start to give it before God and Jesus and receive his forgiveness, then ask him, Lord, what's the next step? Maybe there's a relationship that needs to have some mending done in it. Maybe not. Maybe there's some recovery that needs to go on. Maybe there's something that you need to go talk to a counselor about. Maybe the next step is talking to a trusted friend who can hold your secret like Jesus does and see what the next step after that is. So, there's one person in this story that we haven't talked about yet. who was deeply hurt and sinned against. And that's Jacob. Think of all the years he lost mourning and grieving the death of his beloved Joseph. And now to find him alive. How does Jacob feel toward Judah? Well, we don't have to guess. Because some years after they've been in Goshen, Jacob is about to die. And before he dies, he has a word of blessing for Judah, the one who lied to him, the one who sold his favorite son into slavery. And listen to the blessing that Jacob gives to Judah. He says, Judah, your brothers shall praise you. The word Judah means praise. And he says, your brothers are going to actually praise you. And your hand shall be on the neck of your enemies. Your father's sons shall bow down to you. And what he's saying is, Joseph, you are going to be the leader. Your tribe is going to be the leading tribe of the 12. And in fact, it was the tribe of Judah, right? In fact, the whole southern kingdom, at times, is just called Judah. Do you know where the word Jew comes from? The tribe of Judah. Judah, man, you're gonna be famous. Next verse. And he says, the scepter shall not depart from Judah. And he's saying, this is hundreds of years before there was ever a monarchy. When Israel was a theocracy and then they moved to a monarchy. But he says when that happens, God was working through Jacob to predict the future. He says when there's kings in Israel, they're all going to come from your tribe. What an amazing gift to this man who betrayed Joseph. He says, nor the ruler's staff from between his feet until Shiloh comes. Shiloh means gifted one. Shiloh means peace. And it means that and Shiloh was an Old Testament term for Messiah. And what he's telling Judah is this incredible news that Judah, through your line and through the tribe of Judah, will come the anointed one, the very Messiah himself. And so it's no surprise that from Genesis chapter 49, the first book in the Old Testament, to the first book in the New Testament, thousands of years later, that it goes back to Judah. This prophecy is fulfilled. And Shiloh, Jesus, comes through Judah, and to him shall be the obedience of the peoples. And he says, Judah, through you, all peoples, all nations, beyond just the Jewish nation, Gentiles and all will be blessed through you. Wow, what a legacy. You talk about redemption. This guy should be scorned and embarrassed, and yet Jesus, through his amazing grace, takes that and moves it into an incredible redemption story of victory. So much so that our Savior Jesus, Revelation 5:5, says this, then one of the elders said to me, do not weep. See, the Lion of the tribe of Judah, the Root of David, has triumphed. He is able to open the scroll and even its 7 seals. The Lion of the tribe of Judah, who's that? Jesus. Jesus is the Lion of Judah, our Messiah. Rather than be embarrassed by Judah, he comes and identifies with Judah because of his grace and forgiveness and power. And that's exactly what he wants to do in your life. Let's pray. Father, thank you for your redemption. Lord Jesus, we could never thank you enough. Lord, we deserve rejection. We deserve condemnation. Let's be honest, Lord, my life is checkered. And yet, because of your grace, unbelievable grace, because of your mercy, unbelievable mercy, and because of your justice that required your death on the cross, Lord Jesus, you can heal us. So this morning, Lord, for those of us who have secrets, Lord, give us the courage to bring them to you. Lord, give us the faith to believe that you who already know our secrets are there to forgive us and free us from its slavery and from its sickness. In Jesus' name, Amen.